If you're feeling overwhelmed, panicky, or totally lost in these stages of divorce, then this is going to be a great episode for you because it is totally easy to feel like you need to rush into decisions, feel like you need to respond to messages immediately, or meet impossible expectations whilst you're still potentially grieving from breaking up. But the pressure of rushing and getting things done and being overwhelmed can often lead to decisions that cause regret. So in this episode today, Mum and I are going to share practical, grounded strategies to help you pause, breathe, and take back control in your divorce. From setting boundaries with family and friends to understanding what's really urgent and what isn't. Whether you're just separating or you're in the thick of it, this is your episode to help you slow down and focus on what matters: your safety, your well-being, and your future. Welcome, Mum.
Hello, Laura. Hello, everyone. That's a big topic.
It is a big topic, but we've come up with 8 things.
Okay.
Recently, Mum, we've been talking to people who are coming onto the course and doing our online course, which closes today at midnight, just in case anyone is forgotten. But one of the things I've noticed while talking to these people is they are completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But worse than that, I've noticed some of them are being pushed by their ex to make decisions, or pushed by lawyers with 7-day deadlines. And some of these people are just beside themselves because they're just trying to cope with the fact that their whole world imploded.
Yeah. And young people, or in the past, if you've been dating someone and that breaks up, the popular movies, you had time to lock yourself in your room, sob on your bed, talk to your friends about it. But how much worse is it if it's a long-term relationship that's breaking up, where you've got property settlement or kids, and where are you going to cry? I always say you have to do your crying in the shower. So I think popular culture doesn't address this enough, and no one plans for this breakup,
You're right, because in the movies, when people get divorced, you see them and they're crying and they're sitting there with boxes of tissues, eating ice cream. Mind you, I did speak to someone who did eat a whole tub of ice cream yesterday. But they're sitting there and all their friends are gathered around them and everyone's hugging them and making sure they're okay. But in real life, you've got to get up in the morning, you've got to get the kids dressed, you've got to take them to school, you've got to drive to your work, and you've got to keep on keeping on. And so when you add all of this together, it becomes really hard to cope with. So let's look at these 8 steps.
Okay.
And hopefully if you're listening today and you're feeling overwhelmed, that this will help you. Just a reminder though, Mum is not your lawyer. I am not a lawyer, and so we always recommend you get independent legal advice. This is not legal advice at all.
No.
Hello, I'm Laura, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom.
Let's get to number 1, Mum.
Okay.
How can people identify the difference between real legal deadlines and emotional deadlines?
Yeah. I think the easiest way is a true legal deadline. The unshakable, almost immovable deadlines are the ones set by the courts. If there's been an order made, or it comes up in the central practice direction, or there's something on your document you've got from the court that says, do this by this date, that's a hard deadline, right? You can't negotiate that by and large. The other sort of kind of real deadline is the one that your ex's lawyer might send you. And in spite of everyone's best efforts, there are still lawyers who like to put the pressure on, and or for whatever reason. And you may get a letter, like you said, Laura, 7 days to respond. 2 of those is a weekend. By the time you've gotten over the shock, the deadline's already passed. Those are negotiable, right? So can I just say, look, anyone who's got a letter giving them a ridiculous deadline, short deadline, 7 or even 14 days, if you can't do that, don't ignore it. Write back and say, thank you for your letter, with gritted teeth, thank you for your letter, but I find that deadline is too hard for me. However, I will give you the documents you need, or I will have an answer for you in 21 days, and give them a date by 3 p.m. on this date. Now, they're stuck with that. If you've said, I'll give you an answer a week after you've asked for one, or a fortnight after you asked for one, they can't really go to court and say that they properly negotiated with you because they cut off that option. But make sure you do something with that. Do give them a response. And what I recommend, in a way to show goodwill, not to them, but the court will see goodwill, is if you've got anything easy to give them, like if they want all your bank statements, chuck them the ones you've got and say, I'll gather the rest and this is the day. Yeah, so that's a semi-real. And then the third one is the absolute fake deadline, and that is when your ex is telling you, you've got to go to the mediator by this date, or if you don't do this by this date, I'm going to do that. If that's coming to you, it's just noise, isn't it? Right? And although you may have been, during the relationship, used to doing what your ex says, some people think their word is law, you don't have to. And again, you can respond and say, that's too soon, or tell them, but preferably text or writing.
Right. So deadlines, you're saying there's 3 levels. There's court deadlines. You have to follow them. You have no choice. Then there's the lawyer deadlines, which are semi-important, but you've got to write back and say, hey, I can't get that to you by this deadline because that's unreasonable, but what about this?
Or not what about, I will have it by this date, and then do it.
Okay. And then the other one is where the ex is giving you deadlines, like move out of the house by this date, or, all
Give
those
my
kind of
car
other
back.
deadlines that they give you. But if it's not court ordered or if it's not from a lawyer, then you don't have to be that stressed about their timelines. Okay, so that will take away some of the panic that people will be having. That's number 1. Number 2, and I think this is something that people can just do, because I'm hearing this a lot, and Mum, we talk about this, it's usually quite unusual for both people in a relationship to go together and say, it's time, let's break up. Some people do it, and that's great, but a lot of people, it's one or the other. And one person's been thinking about it for a very long time, and they go, no, I'm done. I'm going to tell him it's over. And then something happens and they go, okay, I'll give it another chance. And so they've been thinking about breaking up with someone for a very long time. The other person might just be riding along completely unaware that this is happening, and then they get blindsided. So one person has been dealing with the fact that their marriage is breaking up and it's going to be horrible for 2-3 years maybe. They've had time to think about it. They've come to this conclusion. The other person is either probably, this is news to me, or I thought we were going to try and work this out. So they're right in the thick of the beginning stages of dealing with this.
That's right. I think that someone did some studies and said that the leaver usually has been thinking about it for a year. If they're genuinely wanting to salvage the relationship, they may have been making noises about counselling, or they may have begun to withdraw a little bit. But they've done their grieving before the separation. And I can remember years and years ago, someone said about how the other person just up and left. They came home from work, there was the computer left in the lounge room and nothing left anywhere else. And I said, but surely there were signs. Oh, yeah, they said it, but I thought they were just having a bad day. So whether you've even had it communicated to you, the realisation, that's when it hits you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do hear people say, I got to the point where I just didn't want to bother arguing anymore. There was no point saying, this is how you're making me feel, or there was no point having an argument with my partner because it went nowhere. So they stopped arguing.
Yes.
They stopped saying, I don't feel okay. And then a year later, they're like, I'm done.
Yes.
And then they're like, wait, we haven't even been fighting. What's going on? So, so the reason I wanted to raise that was because recently I've been speaking to people and they are blindsided by their ex going, I'm completely and utterly done. And these people are just distraught, obviously, going through this. But then their ex is like, I'm done and here's the paperwork and I want you to sign it. Or I'm done and I want you out of the house next week. Or I'm done and let's tell the children tomorrow. Or I'm done and mediation's been booked.
Yes.
So, Mum, what can people do, particularly those who are just completely blindsided, what can they do to take away a bit of the overwhelm while they're trying to still deal with this stuff?
Okay. So I think you're right that there are people who stop fighting. And I know a Baptist minister once said to someone I know, if you aren't fighting in a marriage, one of you is not necessary. Okay. So I understand that. But you need to be given this something like the same amount of time to come to grips with everything as your ex has. So they're cold-blooded now. They've left, they've grieved. You're still grieving. You can give yourself some grace and ask for time to be extended from that. You explain, put in writing, you only just told me, I've got no idea. This is unreasonable. Do not go to a mediator that's been booked within, we've seen it, haven't we, Laura, 3 or 4 days after your world just imploded.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is that the other person, if they're doing that to you, and if they really haven't indicated that they're leaving, then in a way, they may still be controlling you and coercing you. And you can be sure they've researched mediators. They've researched lawyers. They know everything. They're miles ahead of you. So give yourself some grace. Refuse to go to mediation. If your lawyer says, oh, it looks bad if you don't go, say, yes, but how about in 3 weeks' time, or how about in 2 months' time, or how mediators? I hate it when people get given a mediator and that's the only one they're offered.
So what could they do instead of just accepting the mediator that this person's just miraculously produced?
Well, I think one of the things they can do is say, I'm not comfortable necessarily with that mediator, but here's 3 that I have researched myself. Can you choose one? I think that's the biggest one that they can do.
And ask for more time. So you said tell your lawyer, but I think a lot of these people don't even have lawyers yet. They haven't even had time to find a lawyer. I know someone was being pushed into mediation and they didn't have a lawyer, and not that you need one for mediation, but they were panicking. And so what you're saying is it's okay to ask for time.
It is.
It's okay to say, I need a bit of time. But can you have a bit of empathy?
Yes. Find it somewhere. But, you know, a mediator should not actually be your starting point. There was a long time where mediation was sort of a bit new age and people didn't believe in it, and, you know, but now everyone believes in mediation. But what they've forgotten is that the first stages are usually just a communication between the parties about what proposals there should be. You don't want to walk into a mediation not knowing what their plan is. For one thing, you might agree with it. For a second thing, you haven't told them your scheme, so they may agree with it. We say in our course, don't we, Laura? Mediators is for when you can't work it out between yourselves or your solicitors, if you've got them, have reached an impasse. Then go and have a mediation on the things that you can't agree on. And that way, that'll stall things. And also, if there's property settlement, you can't go to a mediation until you've seen all the documents necessary. And the test for that, what documents do you need? You need the documents that are set out in the Family Law Act and the rules. But you also, your test is, have I got enough information to either make a reasonable offer or make an offer, an educated offer, or assess an offer? So all of those things rush too fast, all right?
And if you walk into mediation and you don't actually know what you want because you don't know what you're entitled to or you don't know how it works, then it's going to be a waste of mediation.
It is.
And you can explain to your ex, if they're motivated by money, hey, this is going to be a waste of money for me and for you, because one, firstly, I need to go see a lawyer, find out where I stand. 2, I haven't decided what I want yet, and I need to figure that sort of stuff out. So you can ask for time. All right, let's get to number 3.
Okay.
Setting boundaries. So I've heard some stories recently where, and look, I've slowly been taught online through social media and TikToks that when someone comes to you with a problem, I immediately want to fix it for them.
Yeah.
I want to go, okay, well, ring this number, go to this, see these people, let's do this step checklist. But they say, no, you don't do that. You're meant to say, do you want me to help you fix it, or do you want just someone to listen to you and some comfort? So you're meant to give them that option. And I think some of the older generations, maybe people's parents.
I feel very
no offense,
judged.
Mum. No, but sometimes they obviously haven't watched TikToks that explain these sorts of things. But, you know, your parents may just really just want to help. And so you may say, hey, I'm breaking up. It's a horrible situation. I'm really sad. And the first thing your mother does, and this didn't happen with you, Mum, but the first thing your mother does when you walk in, which I've heard recently maybe, is that they've said, okay, well, what are we going to do? What's happening with the kids? What's happening with the house? When are you selling it? Who's having what when? and you're just like, well, I just broke up, so can you just give me a minute? So you need to set some boundaries
Yes.
with your friends, your family, as well as your ex.
Yes.
Mum, and you always say one of the things to do is just to say, like you tell me,
Yeah.
Mum, you said some
Yes.
people were having
That was
your
ringing
mother.
up, sobbing on the phone. And when you break up with a boyfriend, you're the only one sobbing, right? But I think with a wedding or a long-term relationship, a lot of family members have got buy-in on that. And a lot of your friends have buy-in and they know both of you quite well. And so your breakup impacts all of them. And my mother sobbing on the phone. And I had 3 kids under 8. And in the end, I just said, because she'd ring me often, and end up saying to her, look, Mum, I've got just about enough strength to get me through this and my kids through this. You're going to have to work that out on your own. Now, I don't know if anyone else is that callous, but that's the gist of what you need to say, because they do see it as a sort of a failure. And friends, as you know, Laura, friends somehow feel personally impacted by a separation, and they want you back together again because they kind of think otherwise our little group's going to break up and it might be contagious. And so they all have their own kind of agendas as well. And really, and the thing, to be fair to Mum, I never said anything. I was trying to work it out. I never said any complaints at all.
Yeah.
And so they don't see it. And, you know, if you've got a
coming.
manipulative and controlling ex, they will run to your mother or your father or family members. So they're there before you tell them. So by the time you break the news to them as you think, they've already heard it and the well's been poisoned. They probably heard it's about you. You can't be dealing with all that stuff. It's not relevant at the moment. Let them sort it out. Yeah.
If you've listened to any of our episodes with Krazi, the psychologist, one of the things she talks about, if you're dealing with family violence, and please call 1-800-RESPECT if you're suffering from that, or if you feel triggered by discussions of family violence, please call 13 11 14 Lifeline. But Krazi was saying, if you're having to explain and try and get your friends or family around the fact of the abuse that you've suffered, that is a waste of your energy currently. It's good to have support, but you need support where they believe you and where you're not having to prove things like you're in court, because you don't have the energy for that. You need to save your proof and all of that stuff for court and for lawyers and for all the other things you need to do. You do not want to have friends around that are treating you the same way as the system. So don't waste your time trying to explain or get your friend's head around the fact that you maybe have experienced family violence.
Or recruit them, like not really recruit them, but the other side may have tried to recruit them and so they're already poisoned. In my experience, they will come round because what you've been dealing with your ex probably is going to show up in his or her relationships with your mutual friends. They'll work it out, and if not, you can move on. I think sometimes friendships are a casualty of a breakup of a marriage because people tend to choose sides, but that's not in your power. If you feel you have to defend yourself or explain yourself, let them work it out for themselves.
Totally. Okay, so set some boundaries with your friends. Say, I don't want to talk about it today. We've got a great episode on the 10 boundaries you should set. I'll put the link in the show notes. Please go do that, everybody, if you haven't yet. That's with family, friends, and your ex. I'm going to talk a bit about that a little bit later.
If you're separated or about to be and you need to get everything finalised and sorted but you don't know what to do next, or you're looking for a way to do your own divorce and settlement without spending thousands of dollars on lawyer, then you already know what you need to do, and that is to sign up and become a member of the DIY Divorce Blueprint. Empower, educate and equip yourself with the legal know-how and the tools you need to get divorced or de facto separated and finally settle. Work through this course at your own pace without feeling confused, lost, scared or overwhelmed of all the family law legal jargon and processes. Let us walk with you through this journey and show you a better way.
The next thing, you've got to basically prioritize. You've got to triage yourself. If you're completely sitting in a mess a mess and you're just completely overwhelmed and you're just stuck, frozen, not doing anything because you're just over it, Mum, you really need to get yourself, and we talk about this, into a position where you're emotionally, financially stable
And safe.
so that you can negotiate your property and you can negotiate kids. Because let's face it, if you are homeless or you are not safe, of course you're not going to be in a position to negotiate fairly with your ex, because you might be afraid of them, or you might be
So
desperate
broke,
for
any
money so you can get a
agree.
place.
Yeah.
So we've talked about in the course how to get yourself into that position where you're in a good, stable position. So you've got to prioritize somewhere to live. So your shelter, money, food, and safety. Once you've got that set up, then you are in a good position to start negotiating and doing all this law stuff. So really, if you're in a position where you're not safe, please call 1-800-RESPECT or the police. But you need to get yourself safe before you focus on any of this other stuff. If you're in a position where you don't have money, Mum, what things can they do if their ex has money? What can they do to get money?
A little bit of self-help, maybe. If there's money in a joint account or redraw or offset account that's yours or partly yours, maybe get some of that to keep aside. You can always give it back later. Think of it instead of spousal maintenance, or think of it as an interim property settlement. I think we're talking really about Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well, but we should put legal sorting out is really way, way after those basic things. As for somewhere to stay, consider whether you should be in the house and they should leave. Get some advice on that. The court will and can make sole occupancy orders. If you have to go to a
child
shelter,
support?
Yep.
Child support and spousal
maintenance is another thing. Alimony for our American listeners. Yep. Child support. Get the proper payment for the children that you need. If you're going to get money, if your family's going to lend you money, by all means, take what you need so that you're not, the back of your mind is not going, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, while the front of your mind is trying to work out percentages and if little Johnny's supposed to be going swimming today or next week, and just sort of, you can't. You've got to close that noise down.
So so one of the strategies of the financial abuser is to remove all the money, remove all the safety nets, take away your rights to shelter and money and food and safety, so that when you're in mediation or when you are negotiating, you're going to go, I'll just take whatever you give me, basically, to this point. So that's the position you don't want to be in. Yeah. So work on your spousal maintenance, work on child support. If you are dealing with support services, lawyers, courts, remind them if they don't know. I'm homeless, or I'm in a shelter. Yes. I don't have any money. I can't eat this week. Let them know, because I do think sometimes people, they see maybe in a court environment or in a support service environment or lawyer, they're not thinking about, oh, these people can't eat this week. Maybe we should be focusing on that first.
You do need to tell that story. And sometimes for us, it's a tactic by the other person to kind of starve you into submission. Yeah. I wonder how many go back home. How many people go back home, to at least I've got a roof over my head. I think I can put up with it. They've promised to change, that sort of thing. So it is financial abuse. If you've been dependent on someone and they suddenly pull the plug on that, at least in Australia, under the Family Law Act, Section 4AB specifically sets out financial abuse, which is a form of coercive control.
Make sure you raise that with anyone who you're dealing with, and make sure that you work on getting that sorted as soon as possible before you work on anything else. Just completely forget about dealing with the rest of it until this is dealt with. Now, the next one we think you need to work on, I think it's number 5. Okay. The number 5 is self-care.
Yes.
It's literally essential.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why, and you might oh my gosh, whatever, of course I've got to do self-care. But one of the biggest tactics we see in family law is, particularly in these kind of abusive ones, is where they go, look, my ex is crazy. My ex has gone bonkers. Of course, because you're going through all of this horrible stuff. So you actually need to present yourself to the legal world, to the courts, to the mediator, to the report writers, to whoever's dealing with you, the police, as a very well-centered, sensible person, which is near impossible when your entire world is imploding and potentially your safety is at jeopardy. But you've got to try. And you may keep it together, keep it together. I've been speaking to some people who just sounded like they were all put together, no dramas. And I was like, wow. But then sometimes what happens is it implodes and the straw will break the camel's back and you will break. And I know that happened to me. I was fine. And then kaboom. I was like, I'm not fine. But if I had been topping myself up each week with, I don't know, something, going for walks. I do junk journaling now where I just stick crap in a book and write about things. Like those things help release a little bit each day, like a slow release.
Yes.
And that if you do it repetitively and all the time, it'll slowly release it. It might not feel like it's happening, but you will over time be better. So self-care is so essential for so many reasons. They look at how you're presented. They actually write in family reports how you were groomed.
They do.
Were you well presented? Was your hair brushed nicely? Psychologists write that in their notes.
They do.
Judges look at how you're present. And if you've had late nights and dark circles like I do under my eyes, they're going to note that. And it's going to play into their narrative of whatever maybe your ex is trying. Mum, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I agree, Rose. I agree. It doesn't mean you've got to get your nails done. People have to cut a lot of things out when they're separated, right? So you may be dyeing your hair at home. You may be not false nails anymore. I mean, we've all been there in COVID, right? But that's not what we mean, right? We just mean brushed hair, appropriately dressed. Don't underestimate the impact of the first impression on a judge, like you said, on a family report writer, on a psychologist. Those things matter. And I like that junk journaling, although it's a new term for me. I know you've been doing it.
It's just scrapbooking. It's just scrapbooking.
But that little bit of release every day helps you not have a big explosion. And catching up with a friend, if you've got someone you can 100% rely on. I know you had a couple of friends that were just absolutely Team Laura. And those are the people who fill your cup and make you feel better.
Oh, that's going to make me cry.
Yeah.
Because it was the difference.
Yeah.
And look, I know not everybody has friends that they can rely on because sometimes the divorce has just been horrific and they maybe have a coercive, controlling person who's gotten to all of your mates. But there are support groups out there that can help you through it as well. So we're just not going to bang on about it, but it is important. It is so important because of the way you present to other people. People read into it, even the way the schools, the teachers, the way everyone's going to choose a side, whether they say they do or not, is going to kind of have a little bit of an element of how you present.
And now, one more thing though, Laura. Also, it matters, it affects how you feel about yourself.
Of course. So self-care is very important for all those other reasons as well. I'm talking strategic.
Okay, you're going to be strategic.
So we have touched on the next one, number 6. The grief plays into your decision-making. Guilt, grief, emotions play into your decision-making. So if you are sitting in grief, if you are sitting in all those feelings or anger, whatever it is that you're having at the beginning or halfway through, you need to be aware, that those are going to affect your decisions. So if someone's trying to rush you, and you're completely overwhelmed and you've got all these feelings of guilt because you're the one who left, or you've got these feelings of grief and you just desperately want them to come back. So you're hoping that if you agree to everything, they might change their mind and bring you back.
You might also feel like you've failed. Okay.
Yes.
And sometimes I think people whose marriages have outlived some of their other acquaintances, friends, families' marriages may have been a little bit judgy of those people. And then when it happens to you, suddenly it all makes sense. It's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of emotion.
Yeah. And there's really not much out there to help you with it, but it plays into the legal side.
It does.
So if your ex knows what emotions you are dealing with, they can use it as a lever. And I hope they're not, but they could. And some people go, oh, no, we're amicable. We're going to keep it amicable. Because they've judged other people who've had big, nasty divorces, which has realistically just been they haven't been agreeing. Yeah. So we're not going to do that. I don't want to do what your ex did. They worry about what people think. And so then their decision-making is a bit, and their ex is using that as a lever. You need time to work through those.
Yes.
Not everyone can afford a psychologist, but if you can, holy moly, I think that's your secret squirrel in your pocket to win and get the best you can out of your divorce or de facto separation process, because there's somebody there to balance decisions and thoughts.
Okay. Laura, I've talked to some people recently who are getting really good results, believe it or not, watching YouTube videos of therapy sessions. Kind of
other people's therapy sessions.
Well, no.
Oh.
A person talking a bit like we are, talking to the listener and sort of giving input and so forth. And people are finding that helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe go and have a look at that, guys, after you've finished listening to this episode. Okay. The next one, number 7.
Yeah.
The way to reduce panic and overwhelm and empower yourself is to educate yourself. And I know I bang on about this because this is literally what we do.
Yes.
But holy moly, the minute you understand your situation, we see it in our Q&As. The member will say, my ex's lawyer or my ex said this. Do I have to do that? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm going to have to pack everything up. I'm going to have to do this. I've only got 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And you go, Mum, I don't think so. That's not the law.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh. And instantly that overwhelm is gone because they've got some education. If people have done our course, people have gone through the property module, they know what they're entitled to. They know what their contributions mean. They know what their future needs mean. They know their percentage, basically. They then don't feel so panicked and so overwhelmed. Now, I know that takes time to educate yourself, but listening to the podcast helps. I know that helps people. They tell us all the time.
Yes, they do.
And I know the course helps. And I know that even their exes notice when they've done the course because they're like, why is my ex all of a sudden so calm? Why can't I make them freak out?
Absolutely. And one of the big things people tell me is that whilst they may have good lawyers, right, they've never really understood where on their path to freedom they are. They didn't understand what comes next and what comes next. And so one of the most common questions we get asked is, this is happening such and such. Is this normal? So if you know, I think it just takes the scariness out of things. If you know it's a process, you know where you're up to in the process, then you can really see the end of the path.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Our mothers out there, imagine if you were going into labour and you didn't know how long it could last and what was going to happen.
I'll tell you a funny story. So my first child, she was very early, like really early, and I hadn't finished reading the book yet. And I was doing the birth classes, but we hadn't got very far into it. So I actually did have no clue what was going to happen. I actually got you, Mum, to go and get my book thinking I'd be able to read it while I was in labour. But the whole time I was like, what happens next? What happens next? And I remember I'd only seen a chart in the first birth class because it's the only one I got to go to. And it just showed the progression of the lady's face as she went through labour. And the last stage was this really messed up, angry, scared out face. And I kept saying to the midwife, am I at the angry, scared, mixed up face yet? Is this as worse as it's going to get? So I didn't know what I was, and it was so much harder to deal with.
Yes.
Once I'd done that, the second two were, okay, I know what happens next. And when it came to this divorce, hopefully I'll never have to do it again, but not knowing what was next, I just relied on my lawyer to say, okay, we're going to do this now. Okay, we're going to do this now. And I was like, when is this ever going to be over? And so at least knowing those steps and stages, having that roadmap, again, I cannot stress to you how helpful it has been for so many people. So if you want to do the course, the enrollment's closed tonight. Hopefully I get this episode out. Yeah. It closes at midnight tonight, which is Wednesday the 26th. If you would like to enroll, you've got until then, and we won't be opening doors till next year. Please don't be one of those people that email me and say, I missed it, because we will not be able to let anybody in this time round. Yeah. I'm sorry, because it is pretty full.
If you don't know how your journey is going to go and how long it's going to last, you don't know if you've got enough money, when you're going to run out of money. You can't even budget. Yeah.
You're so right. It's such an unknown. That's why it's such an overwhelming thing, because you're just like, what am I even doing? So the last one I want to raise, and this is a very practical one, number 8, is one of the things we always say, Mum, is get yourself in a new little mini routine. Set yourself up for this part of your journey, okay? This is temporary. This is not your forever home that you're probably in. You're probably going to have to sell the house, or you've moved into a rental and you're waiting for property settlement. I used to call my place the Summer Palace. It was an apartment and it was the Rapunzel Summer Palace. And I was like, this is temporary. And then I'm going to move into my forever place. So you need to set yourself up for this temporary. And one of the other things you can do, Mum, we always say, set up a new email.
Yes, do
Now,
that.
why is it good to set up a new email?
Well, apart from the fact that just doing something practical like that will make you feel better, ADHD brain probably speaking here,
Yeah.
but also it just keeps everything tidy. That new email address will be the one that you give out to people to send stuff to, or you may send stuff to that you want to collect. And it's all there when you need it, and it's all there in date order. So set up that new email address for this stage of your life.
Just for the divorce stuff. So if you've got that one email, don't make it a terrible one. Make it a sensible one.
Oh,
and
and
then
not too funny in case it goes before the court.
Yes. Okay. And then having that one email address, you can set up a Gmail or whatever. That way it's all contained. So if you don't want, because in our boundaries episode, we talk about taking away that overwhelm also means not letting them in all the time, not letting them go at you or have questions every 24 hours, because you're allowed to have your own life still. Some people think that they can't start living until they are officially divorced, they have officially got their property and they've officially got their kids' orders. But newsflash, life keeps going. You are going to keep living. So you're allowed to go, okay, well, my temporary life for the moment, whilst dealing with this basically second job of getting divorced, I'm going to set up some boundaries and some rules, and that is it's going to go to this email address like you would with a new business. I'm going to deal with it into the 9 to 5 hours, and I might only work on this divorce thing Tuesdays and Thursdays, unless the court tells you otherwise. So there are ways to just kind of give yourself some space so you're not overwhelmed, but also give yourself some boundaries and treat it like a business.
Yep. And you're protecting your peace that way as well. You're not being bombarded. You choose to go in and deal with this stuff at a particular time. And sometimes even setting a timer. I've got a little ladybird timer. Not that I'm going through divorce, but when I have to do something I don't really want to do, I use that and make do it for 25 minutes.
And you know that Mean Girls movie where they go, on Wednesdays we wear pink? You can say on Tuesdays I do divorce and just force yourself to do an hour of the work. So, you know, that way you're not overwhelmed. You just go, oh, I can't book in that on that day because on that day I do my divorce stuff.
Yes.
And then that way you get yourself into a little routine and you treat it like a second business. Like if you've run a business before or if you've worked in a job before, treat it like that. You know, give it the professionalist thing it needs. But also when you come home from your work, shut it off. You don't need to deal with it. So let's quickly touch on the things that people can do to take away that overwhelm. Identify the difference between real legal deadlines and not real legal deadlines and treat them accordingly. Ask for time. It's okay to say you need some more time. Number 3, set some boundaries from your family and friends and outside noise and just let them know, this is my rules for dealing with this divorce. I don't want to talk about it today. Or can we just maybe get some comfort instead of some solutions today? Number 4, prioritize first your shelter, your money, your food, and your safety. Those things matter. And remind anyone who's dealing with you, if they start, talking to you like life's normal, hey, just so you know, I don't either have food, shelter, or safety or money. So don't start talking to me like everything's normal. The next thing you need to do is focus on your self-care. And we've talked about why it's important for mental reasons, but also for legal reasons. So keep that in mind. We then talked about grief and how your emotions can affect your decision making. So you need to make sure that you are getting some support with that. Number 7, make sure you're educating yourself. The more educated you are, the more empowered you are, the better you're going to make this journey for yourself. And lastly, set yourself up and like it's a business. Get a new email, set some work hours around it, and don't let it penetrate your entire world, because you're entitled to have your life moving forwards. It does not have to be like this forever. Mum, anything you would embroider on a cushion?
Yep. I think that you need to have a heart. I'm getting all fancy here now. A heart.
Embroidering a heart.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it'll be I heart me.
Yes. Oh, Yeah. And then flip it over and I would write, this is a business, not my life.
I like it. We're going to have double-sided cushions now.
Double-sided cushion. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, big hugs to those people that I've been
Yeah.
speaking to this week, and really big hugs to everyone who's going through this. I hope this reaches out to whoever needs it. Please take this as a sign. Do one of the things we've talked about today. There were 8. Surely, even if it's just setting up a new email address to deal with all this crap. Or maybe it's creating something that you can do self-care, or setting a boundary with your family about how to deal with this. Come up with something and let me know. Actually, put in the comments which one you're going to work on. Let us know in the comments. That would be great. And also, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has commented this week, because we have been getting some not very nice people who don't like what we have to say. Not that we don't say anything that's not right in my eyes, but I did want to read out.
They really lift us up. Because
they made you cry the other day, didn't they?
Yes. I mean, when we're talking to people who are really in the thick of it or very early on, it's hard. Well, it's impossible to not be affected by that and think about them and worry about them. But these things really elevate us. And if you want to pay this forward, if you found us and you want someone else to find us, just share or like, subscribe, something, so that we can reach more people, because this podcast seems to help people.
Okay, so we do read out a review once a month for someone to get a lucky phone call with Mum. And I'm going to give this one this month, to Beck July. She'll know who she is. She said, informative, kind and helpful. Laura and Lynn are angels. I've been an avid listener for the past 2 years and I've learned invaluable information about family law that I had no idea about. I've listened to many podcasts and the Divorce Course podcast is by far the most informative. I have always been very appreciative of the manner and handling the sensitive situations, including DV and family violence. Speaks volumes to the emotional intelligence, empathy and kindness of Laura and Lynn. I cannot recommend the podcast more highly. Thank you for traveling by my side through such a difficult, long and drawn-out journey. You make the load lighter every week.
Oh my goodness.
And we got so many lovely ones. So Beck, reach out to us at the divorcecourse.podcast@gmail.com and I'll arrange that chat with Mum, and I'll chat with you on email as well. If you'd like to, for next month in December, to get a chat with Mum for free, just write us a comment and that would be really great, and that will help counteract the angry group that's attacking us. We haven't had any this week though, so that's good.
That's a good sign.
Yay.
Yes.
All right, big hugs to everyone. You're doing okay. Thank you, Mum, for your time, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget the course enrollment's closed tonight.
Okay.
Better remind me. Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mum.
you, Laura.
Bye,
everyone. All the best.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording